You know, when I was about 9 years old, a wonderful thing happened. Now, Ovington Bowling Alley Bar, luncheonette, so on and so forth. I almost grew up in that. That was literally about maybe less than 100 feet from my house, right on the corner of Ovington and Fifth Avenue. But anyway, when I got to be 9 years old, my father asked me if I wanted to bowl a few games. I couldn't believe it. You're not allowed to do that. But he was very good friends with the owner, this guy Eddie. And they let me in there and I started bowling. Well, let me tell you something. It took, well, these are the days with pin boys, the alley conditions. They had 10 lanes upstairs and 10 lanes downstairs, which actually was a pretty big bowling alley back then. With pin boys, tough to hit, but great atmosphere. When I broke 100 for the first time, let me tell you something. It was like a 300 game. What a fantastic feeling. But anyway, the deal that he had with Eddie was I could really go in there and bowl any day I wanted. And then my father would settle up with Eddie and take care of the pin boys and stuff like that. And within the next 2 years, I started getting really good. By the time I was 13, I was bowling for my father in the league that he was in. Not all the time, you know, he really enjoyed more just sitting in the bar and shooting the shit rather than getting out there and bowling and doing anything. And he wasn't a bad bowler. He was about a 160, 165, which in those days in the league was not bad at all. But I was doing better. It comes down to the end of the season, and the first place team had the captain, this guy by the name of Jimmy Nolan, who was the head pin chaser there. Fantastic bowler, lefty, threw the biggest hook I ever saw at the time. And at Ovington, nobody, but let me tell you something, nobody, I don't care who it was, could come in and beat Jimmy Nolan in Ovington. That's just how good he was there. And he was good in any house, but I mean, in Ovington, he was unbeatable. Well, we bowl him, and we have to win all 3 games. So our team, it was position night, the final night. Our team had to win all 3 games to win the championship. I bowled really good that day, really good. And we won the championship. We swept the 3 games, which was almost impossible to do. And Jimmy and my father, they got into a few verbal words, Jimmy being Irish, my father being a thick-headed Scandinavian Swede. One word led to the other, and my father challenged Jimmy to bowl me because Jimmy was putting me down. First of all, I never really bowled for money, not heads up against somebody. My father, though, was smart enough to know the match couldn't be in Ovington, even though that was my house, and I never really bowled anywhere else to speak of. He sets it up in Lemark Lanes up on 88th Street and Fifth Avenue. Brand new house. I was never in anything like that. I mean, big, spacious, beautiful, boom, 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 the whole bit. We go up there, and we're going to bowl a 3-game match, total wood, for $50. $50 was a week's pay to men with families. $50 was not something to sneeze at. Let me tell you something, not to sneeze at all. Well, I get up right away. Let me say one thing, I'm practicing, and these alleys were so easy in comparison to Ovington, I couldn't believe it. I mean, but that's still besides the point. The first ball I throw in the actual game, I'm so nervous, my hand's shaking, my legs are shaking, my toes are shaking. I lightly go off my ankle, not much, and luckily I throw a strike. Jimmy starts off with a big split, an open frame, and after that it just took all the pressure off. I bowled a 3-game total wood thing like I've never bowled in my life. I mean, I shot like 277 the first game, came back with like a 253 or something like that, and I think my third game was 230 something. Oh, I was sky high. I win. My father gives me that whole 50. He gives me $100 from the league, all in dollar bills. I got $150 in singles. You know what kind of a wad that? This is money I never had in my life. With all of the things, I mean, even down on the streets in Bay Ridge, I was an entrepreneur. Yeah, I sold lemonade that I made, Kool-Aid actually, it wasn't lemonade, and this and that, and I did anything I had to, but I never had money like this. The next day, I walk into another brand new house. Well, I didn't mention, we had moved from Bay Ridge to Bensonhurst when I was 10 years old. So I was already in Bensonhurst for 3 years. I was never in this bowling alley though. Brand new bowling alley on Avenue M in McDonald called the Avenue M Bowl. You're going to hear a lot about that place. My new career as an action bowler is about to begin. 1957, 13 years old. I'm on that tremendous high from beating Jimmy Knoll in my first action match ever at Lee Mark Lanes, which eventually the greatest action bowler in the world that ever lived, Richie Hornwright, would come out of Lee Mark a few years after that. Well, anyway, I went into Avenue M the next day, that big high, all that money in my pocket, the big win, the whole bit, and it turns out that a lot of the guys that I went to school with hung out there that I didn't really know that well. Mark and Roy Shashow and Bernie Bananas and a whole bunch of them, and they all bowled. And every day we would shoot pot games, a bucket to a man, which, hey, it was good money for that age. And I did quite well. But also I was going down to Lee Mark Lanes at the beginning every Saturday bowling some kind of action there. And I always shot great. I mean, I'm talking about 220s, 230s constantly, and I made money. Hey, it wasn't a fortune, but it was money. Then what started a while later was every Saturday when Lee Mark kind of died out, we started going to Windsor Lanes in Borough Park. And this woman was there, Josie, who had the lunch counter, you know, she had like platinum hair and she wore these glasses and thin and a big dirty mouth and the whole bit. Well, anyway, she had a whole crew of bowlers our age that she backed there. And we would bowl against them every Saturday, and then they would come to Avenue M. And this was just like kind of the greatest days of my life. This was the first year of me being a professional action bowler. Everything went good. I was getting better and better, making some money, and that's the end of this part. We're going to get back to a lot of interesting things after this.